I will call the meeting to order 3:32 p.m. on February 25th. To join now. And I'd like to introduce you all to my dogs. Could I have a motion to approve the minutes from, well, first I need to do a roll call, right? Sorry, I'm a little distracted here.
Mayor Carlson.
Yes.
Dr. Mahoney.
Yes.
Mayor Dardis.
Yes.
Mr. Peterson.
I am here.
Mr. Hendrickson.
Yes.
Mr. Pepcorn.
Here.
Mr. Ebbinger.
Here.
Mr. Strand.
Present.
Mr. Campbell. Mrs. Shirley.
Here.
Mr. Steen.
Here.
Mr. Olson.
Here.
A quorum is present. That is everyone.
You're on mute, Shelley.
Do I have a motion to approve the minutes from last month?
Motion to approve the minutes from January 28 and the minutes from February 11.
Dardis, second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mayor Carlson.
Yes.
Dr. Mahoney.
Yes. 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 Yes.
Mayor Dardis.
Yes.
Mr. Peterson.
Just one yes.
Mr. Hendrickson.
Yes. Yes.
Mr. Pepcorn.
Yes.
Mr. Ebbinger.
Yes.
Mr. Strand.
Yes.
Mr. Campbell.
Yes.
Mrs. Shirley.
Yes.
Mr. Steen.
Yes.
Mr. Olson.
Yes.
That is everyone.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is approval of the order of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the order of the agenda?
Steen moves.
Second?
Campbell, second.
Okay. Any discussion? Hearing none. Roll call, please.
Mayor Carlson.
Yes.
Dr. Mahoney.
Yes.
Mayor Dardis.
Yes.
Mr. Peterson.
Yes.
Mr. Hendrickson.
Yes.
Mr. Pepcorn.
Yes.
Mr. Ebbinger.
Yes.
Mr. Strand.
Yes.
Mr. Campbell.
Yes.
Mrs. Shirley.
Yes.
Mr. Steen.
Yes.
Mr. Olson.
Yes.
That is everyone.
Thank you. Let's see. All right, so reports underneath the consent agenda would have been approved. So we will move on to the regular agenda, and I will turn it over to Joel Paulson for the executive director report.
All right, Madam Chair, let's go back 1 second. We did an approval for the agenda, but I would request approval of the consent agenda as well, unless that was in the motion that Mayor Mahoney made.
No, we
This is
did
Dave
not have a
Pepcorn.
motion, so we would get a motion to approve the consent items agenda C, D, and E.
Okay. All right.
Okay, thank you. And I think I might be in. No. Okay, sorry, everyone. So there is a motion by Mayor Mahoney to approve the consent agenda, and I didn't quite catch who was second. Okay, thank you. Any other discussion? Oh, okay, roll call, please.
Mayor Carlson.
Yes.
Dr. Mahoney.
Yes.
Mayor Dardis.
Yes.
Mr. Peterson,
Yes.
Mr. Hendrickson,
Yes.
Mr. Pepcorn,
Yes.
Mr. Ibbinger,
Yes.
Mr. Strand,
Yes.
Mr. Campbell,
Yes.
Mrs. Shirley,
Yes.
Mr. Steen,
Yes.
Mr. Olson.
Yes.
That is everyone.
Thank you. Okay. Now we'll go down to the regular agenda, and I'll turn over to you, Mr. Paulson, for the Executive Director report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Happy to report a number of milestone things that happened here in February. The first item on my report would be the Minnesota DNR permit agency decision. The Minnesota DNR did conclude, and based off of recommendations that were uncovered during the contested case hearing in Minnesota, that the permit was valid. They made one small change to permit condition number 22 related to extensive mitigation in the upstream mitigation area. And so we now have a valid Minnesota DNR permit for construction, and we intend to comply with all permit conditions and move forward. So very happy that we were able to achieve that milestone. In general, we now have all regulatory permits at a high level as we move into construction. The second item is the North Dakota legislative update. The session is still ongoing. I did provide testimony on February 1st, 2021, related to House Bill 1341, or the bonding bill. The House Appropriation Committee did approve the bonding bill. It did go to the House floor, and it was approved. I believe the vote was 74 to 17. So overwhelming support for bonding in North Dakota. It now goes to the Senate for consideration, and we will begin to support the Senate as they move through and consider that legislation. That bonding bill did contain $435.5 million for the Diversion Authority, being available to us for use as early as August of 2021, or this summer. That does complete our overall financial plan, and so we're very happy as we move into the final procurement stages with the development teams that we have secured all necessary funding and financing related to our financial plan. So speaking of P3, we did issue amendment number 1 to the RFP, and that recently went out to the proposers. We did have a schedule adjustment related to some conditions that we put into the procurement that caused us to have a slight delay from March 24th. I'm sorry. The technical proposals are now due on March 24th, which is about 4 weeks later than what we had initially anticipated. And the final financial proposals are due on April 14th, which is about 3 weeks later than what we had initially anticipated. We will continue to keep the schedule on track. We have immense amount of work right now taking place in coordinating with the development teams as we work through a number of one-on-one meetings on a weekly basis. So a lot of effort is being directed to the procurement at the moment, and it's getting pretty exciting that we're getting close to receiving those technical proposals. Another item to note, I did report out last month that the core work plan contained $115 million of federal funds that will be coming into the program for 2021. This will keep the I-29 grade raise project moving forward, and I'm sure Terry can report out some additional thoughts on that. So that is exciting. It keeps the course work on track and allows us to continue to move forward as anticipated. So with that, I can open it up to any questions.
there any questions? Okay, hearing none, I will move down to general counsel update. Mr. Shockley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It is my pleasure to recommend to the Diversion Authority Board the settlement agreement. The Diversion Authority Board will recall this last fall we reached a binding term sheet with Richland-Wilkin Joint Powers Authority, Buffalo Red, Watershed District, City of Wolverton, and the City of Comstock. That term sheet was, for all intents and purposes, the settlement. This agreement, it puts a little bit of additional procedures and protocols within that agreement, setting forth the times, notice requirements, what happens if there's a change in law. For instance, if during the term of the project, if a new beetle is found to be an endangered species, or DOT were to issue some type of change in a bridge structure, it provides a mechanism for the parties to meet and resolve those changes of law, in addition to numerous other procedural issues. The agreement, from a substantive standpoint, is the same as the term sheet that was approved. So there's no substantive changes. This just puts a more procedure and protocol around. The Diversion Authority Board is the last entity to approve the settlement agreement. I can report it has been approved by the Richland-Wilkin Joint Powers Authority, Buffalo Red Watershed District, City of Wolverton, and City of Comstock. And this really is the agreement that, along with the term sheet, that resolved all of the litigation. With the issuance of the permit, I believe the final formality is having the district court formally, the federal district court, formally dismiss the federal litigation. So I can answer any questions that you may have, but it's a nice step to get this resolved and finalized. And it did take a little bit of time in December, so we had to work through a few nuanced issues with myself and the attorneys for the upstream entities.
Mr. Chairman, this is John Strand. I move approval for the sake of getting discussion going.
Campbell, second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? And I am not having the ability to see your hands up, so I ask that, because I'm on my phone, so I ask if you have a question to, I don't know if somebody, Don, if you could help me, or somebody could help me so I can see hands.
I don't see any hands up, sorry.
I do not
Okay.
see any hands.
Thank you.
Dr.
Oh,
Mahoney
actually,
raised his
somebody
hand.
did raise their hand. Okay, if you raise your hand, I will see it on my phone, I guess.
Dr. Mahoney.
Just want to thank John Strand for being stubborn and have us pursue this, and then for John, all his hard efforts to get this to go forward, and Joel for his flexibility on seeing things we probably never would have seen. But it's a tremendous movement forward for the VA and us to move forward in moving this project forward. So I just want to thank all those involved in this, because the board also was flexible enough to feel that this is the way we should go.
Okay, thank you so much. Is there anyone else who has a question?
There are no hands showing right now, Ms. Carlson.
Thank you. Okay, any other discussion? See no hands. I had a motion and a second. Could I have a roll call?
Mayor Carlson.
Yes.
Dr. Mahoney.
Yes.
Mayor Dargis.
Yes.
Mr. Peterson.
Yes.
Mr. Hendrickson.
Yes.
Mr. Pepcorn.
Yes.
Mr. Ebbinger.
Yes.
Mr. Strand.
Yes.
Mr. Campbell.
Yes.
Mrs. Sherling.
Yes.
Mr. Steen.
Yes.
Mr. Olson.
Yes.
That is everyone.
Thank you. Okay, moving down to number 6 on the agenda, U.S. Army Corps Engineer
I think
update.
5B and 5C, Shelley.
Oh, I'm sorry. Moving on to 5B, the resolution confirming committees.
So, thank you, Madam Chair. This resolution is a housekeeping resolution. Every year at the annual meeting, which we should have accomplished that at last month's meeting, but it just got overlooked. This just confirms the current membership of the different committees consisting of land management, finance, and public outreach. Pretty standard resolution, along with the attachment showing all the different membership on the committees.
This is Dave Pepcorn. I move to approve.
Steen, second. We may have lost Shelley.
Diversion Authority, should I step in as our vice chair?
That would be fine.
And any objection till our chair gets back? If not, I think we have a motion and a second on the floor approving this item. Roll call vote, please.
Dr. Mahoney,
Aye.
Mayor Dardis,
Aye.
Mr. Peterson,
Yes.
Mr. Hendrickson,
Yes.
Mr. Pepcorn,
Yes.
Mr. Ebbinger,
Yes.
Mr. Strand,
Yes.
Mr. Campbell,
Yes.
Mrs. Sherling,
Yes.
Mr. Steen,
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Olson.
Yes.
That is everyone.
Okay, thank you.
Mr.
Thank
Chairman.
you, Commissioner Peterson, for helping out there.
Oh,
I
welcome
was trying
back.
to, thank you. I was trying to get on my computer. I'm just gonna give that up.
I just wanted to clarify, Shelley, that on our Exhibit A of Land Management, we still have Jonathan Judd as a member. John Shockley said we want to clean things up, so do you have a different name to insert Exhibit A for the motion we just passed? It lists Jonathan Judd as a member.
I would prefer to not go by Jonathan Judd, so I think Shelley Carlson would be more appropriate to put there right now.
Well, I know you're just concerned about adding something to somebody later, one of your members to our authority until you have some elections, but.
Are you talking, yes, so are you wondering if we just want to leave it to be determined for a position there right now? Is that
No,
right?
just if you are going to fill in that position, I think we'll have to do an amendment to the original motion is to add you as the representative on land management.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
this is Rick. If you're comfortable, I will move to amend the Land Management Committee to replace Jonathan Judd with Shelley Carlson.
okay.
If that's all right with you, John Shockley.
Yes, that's okay with me.
All right.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Olson seconds.
Discussion?
Madam
Okay.
Chair, this is
Yes.
Chad. Point of order, do you have the authority to do that for your commission? Or do you have to officially vote?
Mr. Shockley, would you be able to respond to that? I'm not sure as to the authority that I'm allowed, if I'm able to do that or not.
So I believe that the mayor of Moorhead makes the appointments and it's confirmed by the city council. So we may just want to leave it. I believe the mayor has served on land management before. So maybe we just leave it as is, and then next month when the city council makes a formal formally approves your appointments, then we could always do an amendment to the current resolution.
Okay.
Mr.
Madam
Sean,
Chair?
couldn't we also do that in a way of saying that we appoint her following her confirmation by our council, and then it would be done today, wouldn't it?
Well, I'm not sure if Mayor Carlson will appoint herself to serve on land management, or if she will appoint one of the council members to serve on land management. I don't want to presuppose the mayor's appointments.
I think that it would be best to wait, given the fact I am currently serving on outreach committee, and that may need to be adjusted also. So I'm not serving on two different committees. So my preference would be to wait.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
this is Rick Steen. I'll withdraw my motion.
thank you.
And Madam Chair, this is Roger Olson. I'll withdraw my second.
Thank you very much. Okay. Okay, so I think we're done with 5B. So moving on to 5C, a resolution appointing the vice chair and secretary of the DA board. Do I have a motion for, or John Shockley, if you want to speak to that, please.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. This is another housekeeping item. At the annual meeting, the Diversion Authority is supposed to appoint a vice chair and the secretary. So this resolution is appointing Commissioner Peterson as the vice chair and Don as the secretary of the Diversion Authority Board.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve that resolution?
So move. This is Chuck.
Second?
Steen seconds.
Okay. Any discussion about this resolution? Any discussion? Okay, hearing none. If I get a roll call, please.
Mayor Carlson,
Yes.
Dr. Mahoney,
Aye.
Mayor Dardis,
Aye.
Mr. Peterson,
Yes.
Mr. Hendrickson,
Aye.
Mr. Pepcorn,
Yes.
Mr. Ebinger,
Aye.
Mr. Strand,
Yes.
Mr. Campbell,
Aye.
Mrs. Shirley,
Yes.
Mr. Steen,
Yes.
Mr. Olson.
Yes.
That is it.
Thank you. So the resolution passes. Congratulations, Commissioner Peterson and Don. Moving on to number 6, U.S. Army Corps of Engineer project update. Are we able to have a project update? Would that be Terry?
Absolutely. Good afternoon, Madam Chair.
Good afternoon.
I'm pleased to provide the monthly update for February for the Corps of Engineers. For both the diversion inlet structure and wild rice structure, we've got pile driving starting up again. The diversion inlet structure, I believe that began this week. At the wild rice, it'll start back up in March. The gates and assemblies are being manufactured off-site in Alabama, and we continue to have Corps folks go out and inspect that manufacturing process. Down to number 3, Red River Structure Design, we continue to be on schedule to have plans and specs done in August of 2021. The local sponsor review of that, the 95% is scheduled to start in late April. Number 4, Southern Embankment Reach SC1, that was advertised for bids on the 15th of January. We had bids due the 17th, but we had to move that to the 3rd of March because we don't have all the permits in hand yet. Not sure if we'll have to delay that bid opening again. We'll keep you posted. Number 5, Reach SC1B, the design continues on that. Nothing new really to report. Number 6, SC2A and 2B, design keeps kind of on schedule for 2A. We've got a 65% review coming up in February. and reach SE2B. That's the second half of the Camel Hump. That's scheduled to start sometime in March. I-29 raise, as Mr. Paulson said, we did finally get that out on the street. Bids are due from the pre-qualified sources on 11 March if we can get the permits in hand on that project. So that's really good news. Very happy to get that out on the street. It's a 30-day bid process. Number 8, Drain 27, the design stays on schedule, but the contract award that we had scheduled for September will likely be delayed due to land acquisition. And number 9, Drayton Dam, nothing new to report. Design started up and our PDT continues to work on that. Goal is to have plans and specs done at the same time as the Red River structure due to the Minnesota DNR permit. And that's all I had, unless there's any questions.
Are there any questions?
Madam Chair, Terry,
Yes.
just a question on when you say the permits aren't gathered. We just had the permit, but Minnesota approved, and it always seemed in the North Dakota side, we did have permits going forward. What permits are we lacking that you're having difficulty obtaining?
We're really close. It's the permits from the State Water Commission. They're working really hard to get those released, sir.
Mayor Mahoney, I don't think the permits are, it's more of a timing issue. It's not a, I don't want to speak for Terry, but I don't believe it's a substantive issue. I think it's more of a timing issue. There's just a lot of work for everybody to do.
Yeah, correct. We need to have those permits in hand well prior to bid opening. And so that's where we're kind of running into, like John said, a timing issue.
I see Chad Peterson has his hand raised. Commissioner Peterson.
Thank you. Terry, any indication of the interest on the I-94 project? Can you give us a rough guess at how many people are showing up or how much interest you've had, please?
Yeah, so we pre-qualified bidders and we've provided the list of the pre-qualified bidders to the Diversion Authority. The interest was good. I think I'm sorry, I don't have the numbers in front of me. I can find that, but I think we pre-qualified 5 contractors.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Certainly.
Any other comments or questions? Okay. Thank you so much, Terry. I appreciate it. Moving on to public outreach update, number 7A.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Yes. This is Roger. The Diversion Outreach Committee meeting was yesterday. And as I looked at my agenda, I thought, well, this is going to be a quick meeting. But we have to apologize to the Finance Committee because we ran over, I don't know, 10, 12, 15 minutes. So we had a very good discussion and a very good presentation by Jennifer Darling on path forward on our outreach and communication plan. And I'm pleased to recommend to the Diversion Authority PR for Good, a firm that will provide support for our outreach plan. And it comes recommended from our committee to the board. And also we pass it on to the Finance Committee. So we're looking forward to a good discussion. And now I'm going to turn it over to Jennifer, and she will give us a communication director update. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Olson. Jennifer?
Thank you so much. Let me just share my screen. You can see the overview? Oh, no.
Jennifer, I got it here for you if you would like.
Thank you. Do you see that, the overview?
Yes, we do now.
Great. So I'll just share a little bit of the communications view of where we are kind of wrapping our arms around the landscape of communications. I'll also dive into the core initiatives, some of the top priorities for the next 6 months, the communication channels that we're engaging through, and then discuss the next steps in the budget. So just to share a little bit about the communications view that that I've seen since I've been here. So far, we've been sharing it as just public outreach and legislative, but it's so much more than that. So the external piece is public outreach, community, lands, local business, emergency management, and township. The internal piece is alignment with all of the internal entities. That's USACE, Jacobs, AE2S, the legal team, the P3 vendor. The media would be press relations, feature stories, proactive and reactive events, as well as print, online, and TV. The initiatives are just key vital activities that need high-level attention and accuracy during certain moments of the project. So we have our day-to-day things that we're always addressing, but there are some high-level activities that we need to rally around during certain times. So that's what that initiatives piece would be. Then we have our functional comms, which would be our team and project management, just consistency in the templates and our messaging, our brand software that we're using, and meetings. So just to help build that foundation piece for the comms that we're doing. And then also leadership, which is the diversion, the committees, and the board. Crisis communications, which is proactive planning for any emergency that could arise during the P3 process, or any negative media, just some kind of financial issue or community impact during construction. We hope that those things don't occur, but if they do, part of that is just being prepared in advance for them. And then events for live events in the community, any conferences, local universities, when the colonel or general come to visit, that's a major event that we would need to rally around. And then the communication channels that we're funneling information through and engaging in that way. And I can dive in a little bit more in just a minute. So some of the priorities for the next 6 months that have been identified are building the communications team, engaging through this legislative assembly that's happening now, aligning our communications approach to all of the constituents. Part of that is ensuring that we have just a consistent brand and on our visuals, our templates, the language that we're using, our project status, and I'll talk about that a little bit more next as well. Being more proactive with the media. Right now we've been a little bit reactive because we've been in that litigation mode prior to now. So now that we're transitioning into this P3 and construction phase of the project, we really want to help tell that story. Building that national coalition of partnerships, strengthening the impacted landowner communications is a huge one. It's such a sensitive part of this project, and definitely working with the lands team to help evolve that in any way possible. Enhancing our partner communications, and then just preparing for that P3 portion that is on the way soon. Just doing the strategic planning now, being proactive about the announcements that will happen, onboarding with their communications team when they join, and then transitioning to the communications during the construction phase. And activating just any opportunities at key events. So if we want to get more of the word out in the local community, or even for an internship program, just any opportunities there we might be able to activate as well to be a part of this program as we're moving forward. So some of the things that we're doing just to align better in general is look at some of the inconsistencies that we've seen before. this page right here gives a really good overview of just kind of what we're dealing with to wrangle the communications together at this point. There's about 14 different names for the project that I've seen, various names for the authority. I checked with John Shockley, and the names that you see in blue are the legal names that we should be using for the program. The first one is a little too long for a logo, so number 5 is the shorter version of that. And you'll see those 2 logos are the ones that we've been using for the authority and for the project. So on this next screen, I'll show you where we're trying to align that just across the board on our templates, our look, our feel, our language, so we're all consistent in the message that we're sharing and the look that we're providing. You can see that we have one for the authority, one for the project. Now they look aligned. You can tell that it's the same project because we're using just a little bit of a variation in the color, but you can tell that it's the same. So just a little bit of a feel of what we're trying to do to have that consistency across the board. And some of the ways that we're doing that is through the communication channels that you see here. There's one new one in the bottom right, and that's an internal one called ClickUp that I've launched. Right now we've been doing most of our interactions maybe on SharePoint or email, but we need a place where we can track the activities and the depth of what we're trying to accomplish within communications and across the project as a whole. So that's something that I'll bring back in future meetings, because I want to share a dashboard view of just how strong the activities are that we're accomplishing, and share some of the metrics on that, so you'll be able to see a consistent flow of what we're accomplishing through tracking it in ClickUp. But you'll notice in the top, the website is highlighted because that is the one source of truth that we should always ensure that we have the best information telling the story about the project and what we're trying to do. Right now, we're kind of spread thin across all of these resources, and we don't have the freshest content. This is a view of the current website. This is what you see when you come to the home page, and it doesn't really give you a good feel for who we are, where we are, what we're trying to accomplish, and what this project is about, who all are all the entities a part of it. So this is one of the things that I'm looking at in the future to evolve so we can tell our story in the best way possible. This is where we're always pointing people back in any of the letters or messages that we're sending out. That URL is pointing them to this page, and we really need to put the best foot forward here as possible. So some of the ways that I've been trying to get my arms around all of this is having just a key strategic team in place now, because there's so much happening at such a rapid pace that I need a strategic team to help me get through this transition period until we can get more local boots on the ground and build that more permanent team. So one of the ways I've been doing that now is with the PR for Good, and I'll share just a little bit about their team right here. There is Joanne Henry, who is a award-winning writer. She's a top communications professional. She's the chair of IABC, which is International Association of Business Communicators, very respected business entity in the communications world. She has a strong reputation in emergency communications and media placements. She's also worked heavily with the St. Paul district of the Corps of Engineers, and she went to Concordia College and lived and worked in this area for many years, so she's very familiar with this area. Also, there's Mike Klein. Now, these are not the only 2 individuals who are working, but they're the 2 high-level strategic individuals that I've started with to get things going where we are. But Mike has written books on communications. He's been a chair of IABC before as well. He is one of the top 10 communications professionals in the industry. Very, very well respected. You can Google him and find more information on him as well. So the budget that we've been looking at for 2021 originally was $969,000 with AE2S. We have cut that cost out, and you'll see the cost for the PR for Good contract, the GA group for legislative support, which was previously approved, and then the creative media team for the photo, video, web, and some project management services as well going forward for that website. Now the 170 is not active now. I have interviewed several local teams here in Fargo area, and ready to activate that creative team, but not ready, not just there yet. So there is a huge savings though with what we've been able to accomplish so far with $500,000 worth of savings. So just to recap, you have a little bit of that view now of the what I've been trying to wrap my arms around from communications perspective, even beyond public outreach, even beyond legislative, some of the core initiatives over the next 6 months that we're really digging in to get things going while we're building that permanent team on the ground, the communications channels, all of those different avenues take a lot of effort to maintain and keep going and rebuild as well. And then the next steps and the budget. So with that, I will turn it back over to you to see if there are any questions. If I can provide any insight with anything, I'm happy to answer any questions there are.
Thank you, Mr. Earl. Any questions or comments? Okay, hearing none. I don't know if back over to Commissioner Olson or continue with Ms. Darling.
We can continue on the next item. And I don't know if Jennifer or Joel are going to talk about that.
Okay.
Yeah, I can take that one, Madam Chair and Commissioner Olson. Just wanted to provide an update for the Diversion Authority administrative and organizational chart. You know, we've had some changes with Mayor Judd leaving and Mayor Carlson taking over as the chair. We do have one open position, as I think there was some discussion earlier in the meeting related to the City of Moorhead's board position that will be filled. But these are the current board members to date. On the second page, you'll see the, sorry. Can we move to the second page here? There we go. You'll see the FMDA leadership team. There's your executive leadership group. We are still working on filling the Director of Finance role, and we hope to do that very soon. And then on the next page, you'll find the technical consultant leads for various different program areas. So I wanted to provide that contact information and designate those individuals as well. So just for your information, you know what, we will update this as we see changes, but I think it's good just to keep everyone on the same page and provide contact information for folks that have an impactful role on the project. So that's all I have, Madam Chair and Commissioner Olson.
Yes, Madam Chair, that concludes our outreach report.
Okay, thank you so much, Commissioner Olson. Moving on to number 8 on the agenda, land management update. I believe that is Commissioner Sherling.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Land management continues to be very busy. In the last month, acquisitions. We're currently working on acquiring property for Drain 27 Wetland Restoration Project, the Red River Control Structure, and upstream structures. We've completed acquisitions for the diversion channel, the Southern Embankment Reach 1, I-29 roadways, Wild Rice River control structure, and the diversion inlet structure. And we're acquiring property interests on nearly 600 parcels, including those acquired via last resort eminent domain and including the split parcels. You can see in your packet the progress on the maps. There's also, as you scroll down, the usual color-coded maps that we provide every month. I think they're pretty instructional. As far as appraisal work, they've been completed for the Red River control structure, the environmental monitoring easements, upstream structures, farmsteads, rural, residential, etc. And we've started flowage easement valuations on over 500 parcels with tillable land in the upstream mitigation area. 2021 farmland lease agreements are being executed with planting restrictions consistent with construction timelines. And we continue to work on a policy regarding the disposition and management of project land. And I appreciate the work of staff that have put in so much time on this. Thank you. Any questions, we'd be happy to answer.
Okay, hearing none. Thank you so much, Commissioner Sherling. I agree, it is a lot of work, and there's a lot of fantastic people working on acquiring flowage easements, properties, all of that stuff. Moving on to number 9 on the finance update, that would be Mayor Dardis.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Finance Committee met yesterday, and Commissioner Olson, don't be too distraught about running over. You were only 13 minutes over, not 15. So don't be concerned about that. You had a lot of things to talk about. As Commissioner Shirley and Commissioner Olson have talked about, their committees have been extremely busy, and their busy work leads to work for the Finance Committee with respect to the dollars being spent. So we are hopeful by the March Diversion Authority meeting, we will be having a new dashboard that will help us guide us a little bit on how amendments and changes to the budgetary process for 2021 is being affected. Just to have another dashboard for us to guide us on that. Yesterday, the board approved 2 contract actions, one for PR for Good, as Ms. Darling has outlined. That's a $237,000 contract for 1 year, and it's actually a time and material that she'll call in the needed services of PR for Good. And as Ms. Darling has indicated, there are going to be a number of local entities that will also be assisting her in that effort. And also the Crown Appraisal, which was a non-budget estimated item. There was no additional dollars. So with that, Madam Chairman, that's the finance report.
Thank you so much, Mayor Dardis. Any comments or questions before we move for a board approval?
Madam Chair, I just request, this is Mayor Mahoney, that you split these 2 contracts.
Okay. Yep, we can certainly do that.
Madam Chairman, I would offer a motion to approve the PR for Good for $237,000, which for 2021, which is a time and material basis. You have the motion for the first one.
Okay, thank you so much. Do I have a second on that motion?
This is Chuck. I'll second it.
Thank you. And any discussion? I see that Mayor Mahoney has his hand raised. So Mayor Mahoney.
Yeah, I have a couple different comments on this particular contract. Initially, the contract on the cost issue, the estimate we had from before from our local contractors was without a settlement, without other issues done. I would suggest if Joel, we looked at that, our cost this year will probably be $500,000. And that's probably what this PR for Good and the other entities that Jennifer is going to encourage at $180,000 will probably be at $500,000. I'm a little disappointed on communications because on January 4th, that Jennifer initially met with this group. They had a full meeting in the city of Fargo, 8 hours on 1/20/21, and no members of the outreach committee were invited to that. That'd be a grand opportunity for everybody to realize how good they are, what they have to offer. I feel that for a group that does a poll in the state of North Dakota without anybody on the outreach committee knowing about that was really egregious. I think that if you would have asked board members, more than likely we would not have suggested that. I would suggest going forward that you include the outreach committee in all the endeavors you do with this group, because my concern is not knowing some of the local politics, things might be missed and would be critical to our going forward as a diversion authority. And the other thing that comes out of this, and watching and seeing all the invoices that have gone through, is the 237 include the 10,000 we've already spent on this group? So did we, is that other money, or is this included in the 237? And then lastly, I would leave with the fact that I really do encourage local being involved when we look out to do something. An RFP could have been done from January 4th to this time, and we could be looking at several bidders on this. The other concern we have, as I talked to Joel a little bit about, is perhaps we have to look at process, because before what we typically had in any of our contracts is the TAG committee would meet and have some comments on that and sign off. Robert and Michael would sign off to the different contracts we have. In this particular contract, it seems like it slid over to Jacobs, and then Jacobs was inducing the contract and basically was not signed off by our TAG committee. So I think we may want to relook at that on Finance Committee, Bernie Dardis, as to how do we do these and how we change. Having an executive director definitely has changed us, but we used to have things that had the political entities involved more. And I know the outreach committee at one time had Rocky Schneider show them what he was going to do the next year with a formal presentation and signed off on. And I also see in Jennifer Darling's discussions with this PR for Good, there have been many discussions on further where we're going to head and what we're going to do. And I'm just distraught that Roger Olson was not part of any of those discussions. I'll end with my comments. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Mayor Mahoney. Commissioner Peterson, your hand was up, and then I believe Commissioner Campbell.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just kind of jumping on what Mayor Mahoney said, mostly towards the end. I think I'm supportive of this motion, and mostly because I think we do need, I'm going to use Mr. Hendrickson's term from yesterday, a bridge to get us to that next PR firm. But I really want to stress overtly that there are no shortage of teams in the Fargo-Moorhead metro area that can accomplish and do exactly what these teams can do. Don't know if there'll be less money, don't know if there'll be more money, but I'm 100% assured of the fact that the people that we have locally can do everything these folks can do. And as Mayor Mahoney said, the benefit to them may be A, they're local, but B, they have a better understanding. I'm willing to bet they have a better understanding of what we've been going through as a diversion authority, as a metro area for the last 50 or 60 years of fighting floods. And I think that it's important for that tie to be in existence because they can tell the story as well as we can. They don't need a bunch of politicians showing up in Bismarck. They don't need a bunch of politicians writing letters, because the people who live here are the ones that throw sandbags. The people who live here are the ones that are not going to be able to throw sandbags anymore, hopefully once this diversion gets built. But with that, Madam Chair, I'll end. I'm supportive of it, but I am very, very much in favor of getting to a local firm ASAP. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you, Commissioner Peterson. I do think it's important to note that those were a lot of the discussion in the outreach committee also, and I don't know if you want to comment on that, Commissioner Olson, but I think that that's been heard loud and clear that although our working definition of local is within 400 miles of the metro area, I think that it is nice to see that Ms. Darling is reaching out to maybe a more local within the Fargo-Moorhead community, so that she's doing that. So Commissioner Campbell.
Thank you. This was discussed extensively yesterday at our outreach meeting. I did not, and it did go with a recommended approval. I did not support it yesterday, and I'm not going to support it today. I think it's, and it kind of goes to, this is a $237,000 temporary deal here that I don't see any reason why we couldn't have had RFPs out there, or RFQs, or whatever you want to call it, on this. We have an awful lot of really talented media people in the Fargo-Moorhead area who can really do a lot of really positive communications, for crying out loud. We have a university here that has a communications program. So it seems to me that I kind of used the word yesterday, handpicked, that it just gave me the impression that this group was handpicked. And I agree with Mayor Mahoney's comments that maybe we should have at least had some participation amongst the outreach committee in making these decisions. I just wanted to let that be known, that I will be voting against this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Campbell. Any other comments? Okay, has been a motion and a second. There is discussion. Any other discussion? Okay. May I get a roll call, please?
Mayor Carlson,
Yes.
Dr. Mahoney,
No.
Mayor Dardis,
Yes.
Mr. Peterson,
Yes.
Mr. Hendrickson,
Yes.
Mr. Pepcorn,
No.
Mr. Ebinger,
Yes.
Mr. Strand,
No.
Mr. Campbell,
No.
Mrs. Sherling,
Yes.
Mr. Steen,
Yes.
Mr. Olson.
Yes, yes.
That is everyone.
Thank you. I wasn't counting the votes. Did that pass?
Yes, we did pass by one.
Okay, thank you very much. Moving on to 9A2, the Crown Appraisal. Is there a motion for that?
Madam Chair, Roger makes a motion.
Peterson, second.
Okay. Any discussion on the Crown Appraisal? Any discussion? Okay. Hearing none and seeing no hands, could I please get a roll call vote?
Mayor Carlson,
Yes.
Dr. Mahoney,
Yes.
Mayor Dardis,
Yes.
Mr. Peterson,
Yes.
Mr. Hendrickson,
Yes.
Mr. Pepcorn,
Yes.
Mr. Ebinger,
Yes.
Mr. Strand,
Yes.
Mr. Campbell,
Yes.
Mrs. Sherling,
Yes.
Mr. Steen,
Yes.
Mr. Olson.
Yes.
That is everyone.
Thank you. Moving on to number 10, other business, the policy on disposition and management of project lands.
Madam Chair, the policy was discussed at the Lands Committee. However, it was not approved. It was tabled for the moment. So I would request that the board does not consider item number 10 at this moment.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Paulson. We will table that discussion and look forward to hearing back from the Lands Committee on that policy. So the next on the agenda is executive session. Do I have a motion to move into executive session?
So moved, Mahoney.
This is Dave. I'll second it. Dave Pepcorn, second.
Okay, Mahoney moved, Pepcorn second. Any discussion before we move into the closed session? Mr. Shockley, do I need to read this whole thing?
No, it's on the agenda as long as the maker of the motion and the second are in agreement with that being the motion to go in executive session, so.
I am.
Okay.
And Madam Chair, we will be going into a different Teams room for this. We will need to have to come back to this Teams room. So please, as we exit, click on the link for the executive session. And then when we end the executive session, please return to the FMDA Board of Authority meeting link so we can adjourn.
Okay, thank you. And Commissioner Peterson, if my computer does not work when we are coming back, if you could please adjourn the meeting, that would be fantastic.
Madam Chair, I'm on it at your request.
Thank you very much.
Madam Chair, John Strand here. I don't know if I see where this link is to go into executive session. Could somebody guide me?
It should be in a separate,
It was sent by Commissioner Strand. It should have been sent to you by a separate link on your calendar. It should say virtual executive session.
Yeah, it's on your calendar on the same day, just in a different time slot. You just click on there, it's highlighted in blue.
Don, could you resend Commissioner Strand the link?
Yes, I will resend that.
thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Shockley, do I need a roll call to move into executive session or just the motion and the second?
The board will need to vote on it, so.
Could I get a roll call, please? Could I get a roll call, please?
Yep. Mayor Carlson,
Yes.
Dr. Mahoney. Dr. Mahoney?
I believe a number of them have already left this meeting and have headed to the executive session. I'm seeing a large number.
Why don't we just call for a voice vote?
Voice vote, all in favor of moving to executive session, please say aye.
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 Same sign. Okay, thank you. We will leave this Zoom and go into executive session.